Chapter 1. Liana and Erwan. Liana entered Eros dressed as a noblewoman. Her gaze was calm, but her heart raged like a storm. She had come for one purpose: to avenge her father's blood. In the hall, amid the glittering lights and the hum of voices, she saw him, Prince Erwan, tall and commanding, with dark hair that shimmered in the candlelight like gentle waves in the dark. His eyes, the color of polished agate, shone warm and clear, as if a hidden light pulsed deep within them. There was no royal pride in his gaze, only a quiet sadness, the same kind that had taken root in Liana's heart over the years. When their eyes met, something inside her broke. The music faded, the air grew heavy, and all she could hear was the wild, uncontrollable beating of her own heart. For a moment, she forgot why she had come. She forgot the meaning of revenge. Erwan moved toward her through the crowd, step by step, his gaze neither searching nor hesitant. When he stopped before her, his voice was warm and calm. "You are not from this land. Am I right?" Liana took a deep breath to hide the tremor in her voice. "I am from Darren, here to observe, not to fight." A faint smile curved Erwan's lips, a smile drawn on the thin border between nobility and danger. He leaned slightly, picking up a cup of wine from the table to offer her, and their fingers brushed. A brief touch, yet enough to send an electric warmth through her being. Liana struggled to turn her gaze away, her breath caught in her chest, her mind torn between two voices, one whispering revenge, the other the uncontrollable beating of her heart. Erwan spoke softly, then, "Let this meeting remain between us. Eros is not yet ready for the truth." Liana gave a cold smile to hide the tremor in her voice. "I shall keep secrets well, Your Highness." But inside, the memory of that touch burned like an unquenchable spark. At the end of the ceremony, Erwan asked a promise from Liana. "Promise me you'll come to see me again." Liana smiled softly and agreed. Chapter 2. Their first night together. The night after, when soft silver mist settled over the river and hid everything in its embrace, Liana and Erwan walked in silence through the trees until they reached the water's edge. Their footsteps on the damp grass mingled with the whispering of the stream, and the scent of wet earth filled the air. The moonlight slid across the water like a beam caught between two hesitant hearts. That night, when Erwan spoke of peace, his voice was calm and warm, making Liana's heart skip a beat. He stepped closer, and before thinking, laid a hand on her shoulder, the softness of his fingers sending a small shiver through her. Liana met his gaze, those agate eyes, bright and clear, fixed on her so intently that she felt no secret could remain hidden from him. Their breaths mingled, warm, and carrying the scent of the night and river. Her heart thundered in her ears, fast, uneven, unstoppable. For a moment she felt as if the world had stopped moving. If only she were a little closer. If she dared to slip her hand around his neck, perhaps everything, revenge, war, blood, would fade to nothing. But in that very moment, an image of her father flashed in her mind. A wounded face, a silent voice, a promise once made. Her lips trembled. She stepped back, pausing between light and shadow. Erwan said nothing. He simply looked at her, his eyes holding 1,000 unspoken words. That night, neither of them said goodbye. Only the river flowed between them, and the mist settled softly on their shoulders, as if keeping their secret forever in its embrace. Chapter 3. The truth revealed the next night, without any prior arrangement. They both found themselves by the river at the same time. The air was cool, and a thin mist danced among the trees. Erwan had arrived first, gathering a handful of dry wood. When he saw Liana, he lit a fire. The flames rose gently, casting their warm glow over their faces in a trembling golden halo. In silence, they sat beside the fire and then slowly lay down. The sound of the stream, in harmony with their heartbeats, became the music of the night. The sky was filled with stars, and the wind carried the scent of Liana's hair. Erwin reached out, brushing a few strands of her hair between his fingers, and smiled. He turned to meet her gaze. Those two shining agate eyes, each glance transforming into a living light. With a soft voice, yet from the depths of his heart, he said, "I love you, Liana, and I want to marry you. But until peace comes to these lands, our love must remain in the shadows." Liana lifted her gaze from the sky to his. A faint smile touched her lips, but her eyes shimmered with tears. "Do you think peace is near?" Peace was very near. The minister of Daran, a man of noble heart, had come for peace, and Hieros had never intended to harm him. Yet a group of traitors had made peace impossible. At that moment, the truth became clear to Liana. She realized her father had not been killed by the enemy, but betrayed by men of his own kingdom. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and felt a heavy burden lift from her shoulders. When she opened her eyes to Erwan again, there was no distance between them. A soft silence fell over the night. Only the flames danced, their light slipping over their faces. Their eyes met, and without a word, lying side by side, their lips touched. A long, gentle, heartfelt kiss. A fire ignited in their hearts, brighter than the flames before them, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. When they looked at each other again in silence, Erwan reached for his cloak and drew out a necklace. A stone of brown agate, the same color as his eyes, warm and clear, like a drop of sunset. With trembling hands, he fastened it around Liana's neck and said, "Promise me you will always carry this, even if I am not here." Liana gazed at the necklace. The firelight danced within the stone. She smiled and whispered, "I promise." The fire burned softly. The river murmured, and the mist descended once more, as if the night itself wished to keep the secret of their vow forever. Chapter 4. Bitter Confession. A few days had passed since that night of fire and kisses, yet Liana's heart could not find peace. Each passing moment weighed heavier on her conscience, until even the sound of the river offered no comfort. One misty night, under the pale light of the moon, she resolved to speak the truth. She approached him, hands trembling, her voice a whisper caught between tears and fear. "Erwin, you need to know something. I am the daughter of Darren's minister. When I first came here, I came for revenge, not for love." Erwan's face froze. His gaze flickered between disbelief and pain. He remained silent for a long, heavy, breathless moment. Then he said softly, "Liana, I don't know what to say. You've turned my world upside down, and now I don't know which part of you to believe." Liana stepped closer, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Don't believe everything. Just believe my love." That part was not a lie. Erwan looked at her, his gaze heavy with doubt and suffocated emotion. His voice was quiet, but deep within, anger and sorrow churned. "I still love you, Liana. Perhaps that is the most painful truth of all." He stepped back, cast one last look at her, and disappeared into the mist. Liana was left alone by the river, her tears failing to extinguish the fire in her heart. They only softened it, quieted it, made it burn slower. Chapter 5. Waiting and Separation. The next night came. The mist still settled over the river, and the breeze scattered dry leaves across the water. Liana, without even questioning why, found herself walking once more to their usual place. It was just as she remembered. The weeping willow, the damp stones, and the soil that still bore the traces of past footsteps. But Erwan was not there. No sound of footsteps, no flicker of fire, no smile to light up the night. She waited. The wind rustled her delicate cloak and tangled her hair across her face. The river flowed quieter than ever, as if it too had nothing to say. Hours passed, leaving only silence and the distant flapping of an owl's wings. Liana sat on a stone, clasped her hands together, and whispered under her breath. Perhaps it was all a dream, a single night among thousands of others. Perhaps Erwan was never real. Perhaps he only breathed in my imagination. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She rose, cast one last glance at the fading moonlight, and walked quietly along the riverbank, unaware that at that very moment, Erwan lay ill on the other side of the valley. Fever had left his face weak and pale. Between sleep and wakefulness, he whispered her name, reaching out at times to empty air, as if still feeling the warmth of Liana's presence. The old servant who had stayed beside him pressed a cool cloth to his forehead and sighed, "Your heart, young master, is sicker than your body." Erwan groaned, his eyes half open. Liana. If only I could see her once more. But the night remained heavy and silent. The river glided through the darkness, unaware of two hearts beating on opposite sides, one with longing, the other with fever. Chapter 6. Liana's Despair. Every night, Liana went to their meeting place, waiting for Erwan, yet no sign of him came. A month passed. On the final night, she sat beside the small fire. The flames no longer felt warm. She traced a line in the soil with her finger, right where Erwan's hands had once touched. She drew a deep breath and whispered softly, "End it, Liana. Even dreams have a lifetime." Her gaze lingered on the river. She hid her tears in the darkness and rose. The wind extinguished the last flicker of the fire, and the river's gentle murmur bore witness to her farewell. That night, filled with despair, Liana decided she would never return to their meeting place again. A few days later, Erwan rose from his sickbed. Weakness still lingered in his body, but a new spark of determination beat in his heart. As soon as he could walk, he went straight to the river, the very spot where he had always waited for Liana. The mist once again lay over the water. The scent of wet earth filled the air, and silence enveloped everything. Erwan's eyes scanned the place where the fire had been, the footprints in the soil, the stone where Liana once sat. A faint smile crossed his lips, as if he still believed her face would appear through the mist. He spoke softly. "Liana, I believed your words. I trusted your love. If only you had waited a little longer." Chapter 7. The Escape. Liana had returned to her mother's palace, but no peaceful or carefree nights awaited her. Days passed, yet her heart remained full of longing and sorrow. Slowly, she began to notice changes within herself. Something stirred, breathed, and filled her being. Anxiety and wonder intermingled in her heart until the truth became clear. She was pregnant, but this child was born of a forbidden love. A love from an enemy's bloodline, without the protection of marriage. She would look into the mirror and not recognize the reflection staring back. A heart filled with fear, a future shadowed with danger. She knew that if anyone discovered her secret, not only would her family's honor be tarnished, but her life and her child's would also be at risk. Determined, she resolved to find a place where no one would know her. In the dead of night, she packed a few belongings and left the palace quietly. She had no destination in mind, riding aimlessly until she arrived at a distant village. The village was small and quiet, Yet a lone elderly woman with kind eyes offered her shelter. Liana told a lie, that my husband has died of illness, and I have no place to stay, she explained. The old woman replied, sometimes everyone needs to escape their past, but in your eyes, I still see love. Come, stay with me. With tear-filled eyes and a heavy heart, Liana agreed. In that tiny village, she worked hard during the day and spent nights making dolls to sustain her life. Her little daughter was born in that same house. Liana clung to the small measure of peace she could provide for her child. Her daughter grew day by day, and Liana held her hands full of hope and her heart full of memories. Yet she never forgot Erwan. Sometimes, while cradling her child, she would wonder, why had fate torn them apart? Why was their love condemned to distance and silence? At night, when her daughter slept peacefully, she would gaze at the sky and whisper in her heart, I wish I knew he still thinks of me, that his heart still belongs to me. In another corner of the same land, Erwan whispered her name softly under the cold moonlight, thinking each time of the promises he had spoken, but left unfulfilled. He wished that cursed night had never come. Grief, heavy and merciless, weighed on his heart, stealing his breath. From time to time, he sent his messengers to surrounding lands, hoping to find any trace of her. But no one knew where Liana had gone. Like a distant breeze, she remained hidden from his eyes. Chapter 8. Sarah's Curiosity. 5 years had passed. The little child, with curious and shining eyes, playful and full of intelligence, was growing up in the quiet village. Every movement, every laugh of hers, filled Liana's heart with hope and the bittersweet memories of the past. Now Liana, with a heart both full of love and heavy with old memories, had to find an answer to her 5-year-old daughter's questions. She stood at a crossroads. Should she lie to her daughter or tell her the truth? Then she remembered how once she had hidden the truth from Erwan, and now she, Erwan, and their daughter were all paying the price for that silence. This time, she decided to tell the truth. The time had come to face the past and to reclaim what had been lost for so many years. Each moment, like a gentle breeze that stirs the leaves, carried the promise of reunion and a chance for redemption. I will take you to your father, she said softly. We must get ready. Sarah's eyes widened. We're going to see my father, she cried, jumping with joy. Liana and Sarah packed a few belongings and set out on their journey. Liana did not know what awaited her. Would Erwan accept them? Would he still remember her? Or had she already faded from his heart? Meanwhile, Sarah kept asking endless questions, and Liana answered each one with a smile. You'll find all your answers in just a few hours, my love. And as for Erwan, he sat in the palace beside his mother, who spoke with a firm voice. My son, the time has come for you to marry and to ensure the future of our bloodline. But Erwan's heart belonged elsewhere. His thoughts, his memories, even his hopes, all were with Liana. Every night, he looked up at the sky and wondered if she, too, was gazing at that same sky. And in that thought, he felt their souls were still connected, perhaps the only thing that eased the weight of his longing. Chapter 9. A long journey. The next morning, Liana and Sarah finally arrived at the gates of Erwan's palace. The tall stone walls and armed guards blocked their path, but Liana stood still. She took a deep breath, calm yet determined, and removed the necklace from around her neck, the very same necklace Erwan had once given her. Please, give this to the king, she said softly. Tell him its owner wishes to see him. The guards hesitated at first, but as the sunlight touched the agate stone, its warm glow seemed to carry a silent power, a memory, a feeling that compelled them to obey. When the message reached Erwan, his heart trembled. He recognized the necklace instantly, the same gleam that had lived in his memory through endless days and nights. In that single moment, years of distance, longing, and unspoken love rushed through him. With a voice trembling from emotion, he said, "Bring her to me." At once, moments later, the great gates opened, and the path to the palace lay before Lyanna and her daughter. It was the moment when years of waiting, sorrow, and despair melted away, and the love that had never truly faded burned brightly once more in their hearts. Their reunion was filled with tears and emotion. All the years of pain and separation vanished in a single glance. "Lyanna," Erwan whispered her name, his voice gentle, trembling with tenderness. Then his eyes fell on the little girl standing beside her, so strikingly similar to Lyanna that his breath caught. Lyanna smiled softly. "She's our daughter," she said. Tears filled Erwan's eyes. "What is her name?" he asked quietly. "Sarah," Lyanna replied. Erwan knelt down to meet the child's eyes, unable to hold back his tears. He gently took Sarah's tiny hands in his. "Are you my father?" she asked. "Yes," he whispered, and gathered her into his arms. He buried his face in her hair, breathing in the scent of the child he had never known, then turned toward Lyanna. How did you raise her all alone?" he murmured. "You must have suffered so much. I searched for you everywhere, but I could never find you." He pulled Lyanna into his embrace, his voice filled with love and certainty. "Stay. This time, nothing will ever separate us again." Lyanna rested her head against his, her heart light and full of love. In a trembling whisper, she said, "I'll stay." They were married soon after, beginning a new life together, a life born not only of love, but from the ashes of pain, misunderstanding, and years of loss. On the night of their wedding, the grand hall of the palace glowed with candlelight. Soft, gentle music filled the air as Lyanna and Erwan danced in each other's arms, a symbol of love reborn and hearts finally at peace. And somewhere beyond the stars, destiny smiled, knowing that two souls, once torn apart by fate, had finally found their way back to each other.